Hello, BLACtrospective beauties. We are here for a special episode. I am here with Terri Falbo. Terri, welcome to the show. Hopefully, soon we'll be accompanied by our two other counterparts, or at least one of the other counterparts, not both of them. There should only be one. But anyway, welcome to the show, Terri.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are happy to have you. I am I am a little taken aback because you do not look like a menace. I've been reading about you, and what I've been reading about you is that you are a troublemaker, that you definitely support certain causes that are very threatening to people. I'm about to share my screen so that you guys can see a little bit of the trouble that Terri has been causing. There is this organization that's called Rare Foundation, which is very similar to another foundation that I've heard of, which is called Care Foundation, which they seem like they are, and you can speak to it later, advocating for Muslim American rights here and abroad, and honestly, just for the good of the people, whatever's right. So, can you tell us a little bit about this article that's about you? Because, first of all, this is a beautiful picture. Um, you look very non threatening in your Medicare for All shirt. Um, and I see things like, that you advocated Black Lives Matter, that you wanted the new Green Deal. Nothing about this article particularly looks menacing. Maxwell Frost is a pretty nice guy. I've met him. He definitely speaks up for the people. So, what is the deal behind this?
Well, unfortunately, to some people, anytime people unite and try to come together for the benefit of the whole, that is seen as threatening to those that benefit and profit off of division and exploitation and oppression. And yeah, I learned that early on, and so I kind of expect um, those kinds of uh, smears to be thrown,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Yeah, it's nothing different from even what happened to Kennedy when he started advocating for things that didn't necessarily go for the rich. It's nothing different than the Black Panthers Party for when they started, the free breakfast program. They were told that they were being they were essentially being terrorists and spreading misinformation when really they were just trying to feed a community. So I have to ask you. I see why you got on their radar, and I understand the complexities of why they feel like they have to squash you. But as many advocates that are out there, why pick on the woman? Why pick on because on this sweet faced woman that simply is advocating for justice for all?
I don't know for sure, but I know that one of their major um, emphases was that I am the policy and advocacy coordinator for CARE Florida. And as you mentioned, so CARE is the Council on American Islamic Relations. And so there is a major, well-funded lobby, not just of one organization, but quite a few, that right now are kind of spreading an anti-Muslim, anti-Arab narrative to try to make people fear Islam, fear that Muslims are trying to take over. And so that's how it was portrayed, as though I'm part of this plot for a Muslim takeover of Florida, when all I'm doing is helping the Muslim community and allies to organize a little bit better,
Yeah.
because uh, you mentioned Maxwell Frost. Well, one thing I know, a group of us went to his office one time, and we were talking with him about things that we thought were good, things he could improve on, maybe. And he mentioned to me, when APAC does this, they have all constituents
Mm-hmm.
going, to meet with their representatives. So that kind of gave me the idea, yeah, instead of just a group of amorphous people going that all share a certain viewpoint and want to raise this, make sure that we have people that are constituents of the legislators. So we're just trying to get a little more organized, like lots of other groups are organized. That's
Organization
it.
is
But that's
scary.
threatening to,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, organization
Hmm.
is a threat. So
Hmm.
I could understand. Now that gives me a little bit of highlight, because if we're all combating different things, we're not necessarily focused. We're so busy fighting amongst each other that we're not focused on what the common objective is, that we have a lot in common, right? And that we should be talking to,
Hmm.
we all are really needing to talk to a certain group of people, and they happen to be pretty much the same people that are causing all of this dissension. So the fact that you're getting them organized, and organization is very important. And you must be getting close to who you should be paying attention to and who you should be speaking to, because that's the only reason I could see you being targeted, is if you were getting warmer at
Hmm.
achieving an objective. So kudos to you for being what John Lewis would say, getting into good trouble.
Good.
That
Thank
should,
you. Yeah.
that article should be a declaration of, like, that's an award of recognition. um, when it comes to avocation and prosecution, how did you get here? Like, where did you get into this, like deciding that you wanted to help people? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I always, from the time I was a little girl, I always wanted to help people, and I always felt like, that was what everybody should do. And I was going to
Mm-hmm.
be the person that I thought people should be. And I mean, I felt like uh, God wanted us to be good to each other and help each other, and that's what we should do. So I always, for instance, stood up for anytime I saw somebody being bullied for any reason or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I would always stand up for them. I can remember in elementary school kids being very how can you say, like making fun of and teasing,
Mm-hmm.
cruelly
Mm-hmm.
teasing people for different reasons, maybe especially someone that today we would probably say they might be on the autism spectrum or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, but they
Yeah, we didn't know
had
that
some
back then.
yeah, they had some ugly words back then. And I would stand up for little Lanny Little. For if anybody watches this, um, that I grew up with in southwestern Pennsylvania, and they remember Lanny Little, they can remember, that I would always say, "That's not right. Why are you making fun of him? He's a nice kid," or whatever. And so when I was trying to figure out like what career did I want to have, well, I when I took one of those tests in the eighth grade, I think it is, like to figure
Mm-hmm.
out, like it says, would you rather do this or would you rather do that? And based on all these questions telling you what you should be, it said it tied for like first place were scientist and priest. It was like,
um,
okay.
Two opposite sides of the spectrum.
Well, it seems like it, but I was always very good in math and science, and I liked math and science,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to help people. So,
Oh.
that was that, I guess those are the two things that they did come out. And so I did start out in biomedical engineering. When I
Wow.
was 16 at the University of Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
biomedical engineering, the only girl at the time,
I bet.
and the only one that I could find that was talking about wanting to use it to help people, which is kind of scary that people want to get into biomedical engineering and aren't thinking about helping people, but
Right,
that's a whole
right,
nother issue
right,
there.
right.
And so then I don't know if you want to ask questions about how the transition came from that or,
You already
yeah.
know that that's exactly where I was going. Yeah, so how did you go from there to now working with care? How did, how did you do that?
Yeah, I've had a very eclectic educational and career background, but all of it, there is kind of a thread through all of it, that has to do with wanting to help people, wanting to find out ways to help people, and wanting to, uh, like, my values have always been the same
Right.
of equality and liberty and justice for all, and all means all. If you look at some of my
Absolutely.
social media, like my X account or whatever, and I guess Facebook, those are some of the things, that I say about how I remember growing up and really feeling like when I put my hand over my heart and said the Pledge of Allegiance, and that part, liberty and justice for all, it was like it made me feel like that was my duty to make sure, as an American, I have to make sure there is liberty and justice for all, because that's what it's supposed to be about, and the founding documents about promoting the general welfare and all men are created equal with inalienable rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Again, I didn't say that. I didn't look at that to say, I got to make sure I get all these things for me.
Yeah.
It was like, I have a duty as a citizen to make sure everybody has those things. So here I am trying to study biomedical engineering, and I have to take one elective each semester, like 5 heavy math and science courses and one elective. So I'm looking through the course catalog trying to figure out what in the world, what do I take? And I see Revolution and Democracy in Chile, the rise and fall of Allende. And I'm like, I don't really know much about Chile. I don't know who Allende was, but hey, I
Right.
believe in democracy. So I'm going to pick that because it says democracy in it. And then I have this course, and the professor is a Chilean refugee. And so he and the book that we're reading, they're talking about how just a year earlier, our government and CIA and corporations like Anaconda Copper, United Fruit, IT&T had staged a military coup in Chile and installed a brutal dictator that just rounded up people by the tens of thousands, threw them in soccer stadiums, and tortured them with techniques that they learned
Oh
from the
my
United
gosh.
States. And to this day, I cannot look at a sports stadium without thinking about
Yeah.
thousands of tortured people being in there. Um,
That's
and,
horrible.
and that's how heavy it affected me. However, at first I didn't believe it. At first I thought, this must be propaganda.
Right.
This professor, he must be giving me propaganda because, like, why would my country, my
Correct.
CIA, my corporations, the way I thought, like, why would they do this? They're for democracy, right? Why would they? So I went to the library to read everything I could to try to disprove the professor, to try to show he's telling us propaganda. But instead, I found the total opposite. Like, I read all the sides that I could find,
Yeah.
but all of them admitted that the United States, none of them denied that the United States was involved in
Right.
the overthrow of Allende. Some of them tried to portray, Allende as horrible, but like none of them said that Pinochet didn't round up people and torture, have them tortured and things like that. They just justified it. And I'm like, so even the people supporting Pinochet and the coup and the U.S. involvement in that, they didn't have very good reasons, as
Right.
far as I could
Right.
see, like what to justify such a thing. So then that led me on a quest to find out, like, was this some kind of anomaly, or how common was this? You know, so
Yes.
that kind of set the trajectory for the rest of my activism, and it challenged and changed my worldview. Um, I don't know, like, I don't think most people know they have a worldview, but I think everybody
Oh
has a
yeah.
worldview.
Yeah.
They just don't realize what their worldview is.
Right.
But I think my worldview before that was like, I knew that within the United States there were people that were racist, sexist, um, you know, uh, nationalistic, or against people from other countries, um, people that supported war, because I grew up with the Vietnam War, or the war against Vietnam, I should say, U.S. war against Vietnam. Um, but I guess I thought of that as like, oh, those are like the dumb, ignorant people that need education, like, and the solution was education, and that the main leaders of our country, for the most part, were really about freedom and justice and things like that. But it's just that there's too many people that are ignorant and uneducated. It never occurred to me that there were people that were very highly educated that used their education to oppress and exploit and get over and benefit from other people, and from that oppression. And so that's what I was starting, my worldview was starting to understand that.
I love that you brought that because you're absolutely right. Even in my, I moved from, I don't know if you've ever been to like a rural part of North Carolina, but I moved from Central Florida to a rural small country and a countryside area in Sylva, North Carolina. And the culture shock wasn't the change of the four seasons. Like, yes, I hated the cold. I hate the cold. Right? But that wasn't the culture shock. The culture shock was being in the room with, as you said, highly intelligent people and them double downing on oppression, them double downing on racism. That was the culture shock because simply I just felt the whole time growing up, I was just like, um, if somebody is ignorant to those things that exist, it's just ignorance. It's not willful ignorance. They just don't know. I kept saying, like, the reason why black people get treated the way that they get treated in this country is because they just don't know. It's not their experience. It's not their lived experience. So they do not know. But then being in North Carolina, it was like they did know. And that was something that was just different. But I cannot be mad at that journey because at that time I had been through an experience that was highly racist in the sense of being racially profiled by the cops. I even had guns drawn on me. It was two girls in maxi dresses coming from the beach, and they needed to call 6 police officers to surround us to supposedly check our car because we were impeding traffic, although we left at 6 o'clock in the morning and there was barely any cars on the road. Barely. But for some reason they said I was disrupting traffic, and they called 6 people, 6 big officers, to stop 2 little girls in the maxi dress and essentially bullied them into getting their car searched. I didn't know my rights. That's what I realized in that time. I didn't know my rights. And so then after I got angry, I started really educating myself. I really started, like, I was like, oh, like, what were my rights? Like, why don't I know my rights? Because like you said, when we are going through school, we're, like you said, justice and liberty for all. I believe that too. I believe in those words too. I didn't realize that it was, when it was originally written, it was for a certain group of people. I thought it was for all of us. So the culture shock was that. And the
Mm-hmm.
the interesting thing of you saying that, like, you were trying to disprove your teacher, is exactly the same journey that I had. Like, I was looking for, well, maybe not exactly, because I don't think I was disproving, but I think I just didn't realize that they have it available to you wide open. Like, they have the information, us.gov, they have the information of their exploitation, they have the information of their of the ways that they use their power in order to oppress a group of people, whether that was here or in the country, or outside of the
Mm-hmm.
country, excuse me, outside of the country. So they have this all in front of us. We're just so used to being like, our government is our government and their job is to protect us. Their job is to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we don't get manipulated in any way, whether that's in country or outside of the country. That's their job. So of course they're doing their job. So when we see that there's wars across the sea, it's to protect us. It's only through reading that we realize that it's to protect minerals and resources. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not about people, it's about property
Mm-hmm.
and what's the
And,
gain. And that's hard.
right.
That's a
And
hard pill to swallow.
control of natural resources all around the
Yes.
world. And when you were talking about
I thought it was for all
something
of us.
sparked something in me that I forgot one book when we were talking before that made a major impact on me that I forgot to mention to you. And I read this like almost right after it came out, which I think was 1976,
Mm-hmm.
was a book called Racism, Revolution, and Reaction: The
Mm.
Rise and Fall of Black Reconstruction. I think that was the name of it, like the subtitle. And it was the first time that I guess I thought. I mean, of course, I knew about the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we didn't really learn much about Reconstruction. I'll just say that back then. I don't know if they teach that now very much,
No.
but the fact that there were quite a few black legislators all through the South that were voted in during Reconstruction. And of course, we know there's like at least a couple racist movies about that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but what I didn't know, like it's always portrayed that it was, just all these racist whites in the South. And so the North had to compromise with the Northern whites had to compromise with the Southern, Southern or something like that. And so I grew up in the North. So I kind of had a superiority feeling, or like morally, like I felt like white Southerners were maybe dumber, more
Mm-hmm.
racist, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that,
Yeah.
until I read this book. And since then I've heard some things like on public radio and everything about this too, where it talks about how during Reconstruction there were a lot of white Southerners everyday people who were uniting with the black legislators and the black activists, and they were supporting them and they were involved together in things they saw their common interest. And this was a major threat to not just the former plantation owners, but this was a major threat to the big business interests of the railroads, the banks, the insurance companies, the mercantile and other burgeoning industrial capitalists, as we say, in the North. It was a threat to them. They saw that people uniting across the racial lines, that they did not want that. Okay, so what did they do? They went on a major campaign for almost a decade to solicit articles, books, magazines, screenplays, etc. The publishing companies, all the northern publishing companies, which they were all in the north, the publishing companies, to solicit them among the theme of a white northerner and white southerner meet and either fall in love and marry, or maybe they become besties, but usually it was a romantic and they fall in love and marry. And the white southerner realizes that the northerner was correct, that they shouldn't have seceded from the union, and the white northerner realizes that the south was right, the southern whites were right, that black people aren't equal. And this was the theme of tens of thousands of publications during this time. And it was a purposeful thing, and they refused when people submitted public things for publication that depicted racial equality, they would not accept it. And so this set the path for the that they had to compromise later, and withdraw the troops from the south, the northern troops that were defending Reconstruction, and and all kinds of things like that. So I had never thought of or heard that before.
That's the
Have
first
you
time
ever?
that I've heard that, and I know that through my own research that I know that, like, when it comes to oppression, like, our oppressors don't give up, they reorganize, they re-strategize, and they come back stronger. But the fact that you're talking about, like, the early stages of essentially propaganda,
Mhm.
and the molding of the
Oh.
minds, like, I hadn't heard that specifically, but I had heard that the
Mhm.
our government, the it's either the one of the letter companies, either the CIA or the FBI, they have a budget reserved for Hollywood depiction. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
there's a that so it kind of blew my mind at that time, even to hear that. I was like, why would the
Mhm.
government have a
Right.
budget specifically for cinema
Right. Yes, and music too.
and
That's a whole
music?
nother thing about,
Yeah.
right, about how the CIA uses music. But back to the point about mass propaganda. Yeah, I actually have a Facebook post about this where the title of it is Mass Propaganda, When Did It Begin? And that's what I came up with, what I just mentioned to you.
Yeah.
Whereas usually if you look it up and try to research it, it says it starts in with World War I, like before World War I.
Right.
Like if you look at mass propaganda in the United States, and like all the extreme, and this is true, the extreme mass propaganda that it took to get people to want to go to war. Because
Yes.
I mean, most people don't, that's not a natural thing, to
Right.
want to do that. But yeah, they went on major campaigns to first, of course, to depict the enemy as horrible, raping, molesting,
Yes.
taking babies out of cribs and throwing them out the window, and things like that. These were the depictions that they did to get people to see these, these inhuman enemies that did this kind of thing. And then they had women, very beautiful, dressed up so nice and everything, and taking, I don't remember now if it was a white flower of some sort, but some kind of a symbol that was supposed to mean a man was not really masculine or something. And like if she found like a man that didn't want to go to war, like in a public place, then she would, present him with this to like humiliate him, or I mean, there were
Yeah.
all kinds of, and and the publications. I mean, there's I can't remember the name of the television series or whatever that there was, but there's a major research done, and an expose of the just thousands of publications that went out through so many different avenues, including like the Boy Scouts and,
Yeah.
all kinds of like seemingly like neighborhood organizations or civic things or whatever, but they were all to promote getting people to support a war. So, yeah, it's a constant.
So you you mentioning this is like so mind blowing, but it's not, like, because we kind of see it manifesting in a different way. And you hit the nail on the head when you said music, because I'll say it over and over again, like the music that we have today, like when I was growing up, and I'm definitely sure when you were growing up, we had music that we could pick that emulated exactly how we were feeling at the moment. Whether that was love, whether that was anger. But now it seems like the era of music that's coming out is like pacification music, music that's usually talking about very shallow, hollow goals. And I don't find things that I can really. You barely hear about love either. There's like different names that are called, but it's not honey, it's not baby, it's not any of those things,
Hmm.
more so on the disrespectful. So with this, it's caused like, and I don't know if this is your experience. I know that your organization works with youth as well, and they probably work with some very unique and brilliant youth that are aware. But do they speak about the the struggle and getting their peers to want to advocate, like voting? I'm hearing a lot from the young people that I don't want to
Hmm.
vote. I don't want to vote because I'm not into politics. And not even only young people. I hear that from adults that are my age too, that are like,
Hmm.
I don't want to get involved in politics. And we say this over and over again. I'll say this over and over again. Like, I'm not I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm the Democrat on paper, but I'm just for whatever's right for the people, regardless of where that lays. But what I will say is that, and I also am there because in order in Florida, since it's a closed primary state, you have to be one of the order in order one or the other in order to vote for, your county sheriff, to vote for your water conservation, to vote for your judges and how they interpret the law. Like, all of those things are only if you pick a party that is recognized by the state. So how do you?
You can vote for those things, like, but you can't vote in the primary. And a lot of people think, like in Florida, the vote that is in August, um, the vote that's in August includes both the primary and what they call nonpartisan
Correct.
offices. So people who are not registered with a party can still vote for the what they call the nonpartisan offices in August. They just can't vote for
For
the in the primary
But the
election.
primary is very important because that sets the stage for that August election,
Well, right. Well,
right?
no, it is in August. The
Oh,
primary is in August, except for the presidential primary is in March now. It used to be in August, but they moved that to March. But the what I'm saying is, for instance, like if I am registered with a party and you're not, there's a bunch of positions that we both can vote for because they are labeled as non-party. A lot of the local elections are considered non-partisan, like county commissioners
so
and
when
things
did
like
that?
that.
I'm sorry. So when did that change? Because when I first moved here in 20 when I moved here in 2019, I was independent on paper, and when I went to pick up my ballot, the only option that I had was the president. There was nothing else on there, and I took it to the poll person, and I was like, "Hey, where's all the other stuff that I'm used to seeing?" Because in North Carolina, it's not closed primary. You get everything regardless of if you're independent or not. So when did that change?
Well, was that, you're saying 2019?
Mm-hmm.
Well, by then they had changed the presidential primary to be March. So March in March, the only thing on March every 4 years in
Mm-hmm.
Florida is a presidential primary, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't vote for any other candidates during the presidential primary. The rest are in August.
Yeah, I don't think it
So,
was just yeah, I know that my family's ballot, because they have the prior, they had, my dad has the vote by mail, his looked very different from mine. And he was a registered Democrat and I wasn't. So if that,
hmm.
yeah, like that was my
I
personal
mean,
experience,
I
yeah.
think there were some like city positions that used to have, and maybe they
And it
still
could have
do,
been the
but I'm not
district
sure. But
maybe.
they have their elections, but not like state offices or not county offices. Um, but yeah, the city ones would probably be
Okay, yeah, it
in
could have been.
March. But again, like you said, they would be primaries.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, because I was like, I remembered like looking,
Mhm.
comparing, and I was like, I didn't have all the things that you had because he got his early. And since it was my first year, I didn't sign up for mail by vote. So I had to go in. But,
But but it is
but,
true that you don't get to pick who is going to run, like be the candidate, because if there's a primary,
mm-hmm,
um, if the Democrats have more than one person and the Republicans have more than one person running, you don't, if you're not registered with either party, then you don't get to pick which one of
correct.
those, or sometimes they have more than two, running, so you don't get a say in that. What I really think we should do is the ranked choice voting, so that what that means is, like, say there are three, four, five, six candidates in a primary. Um, People get to rank. They don't have to. They
Mm-hmm,
can vote for only one,
right.
but if they want to rank it, the choices they can, and that way there doesn't need to be a runoff. Then, like, if no candidate gets over 50%, then immediately they go to people's second choice, and they see
Oh,
if by having the second choice, if that raises any above 50%. And the couple reasons why I think that's good is, one is because you don't have to have a runoff,
right.
again, to make it be over 50%. And number two, because people don't have to fear voting their heart. Because right now, what people do, like when there's three or more people um, in an election,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people will not vote for the one that they really support, because they're afraid that then the one that they like the least will end up winning. So
Oh
then,
my.
so then they temper that, and they, like, oh, well, maybe I better vote for this one that I really don't like so much, but at least it'll keep this other one from winning.
Yeah.
And if you have ranked choice, you don't really have to worry about that so much. You
Oh
can
my
vote your
gosh.
heart for your first choice and then go for your second choice, and so that if you don't have to worry about swinging it to that one that you really don't like.
I really want to delve into details, but I'm already looking at the time because I'm just like,
I know,
y'all, we're gonna have to have Terry back,
I
right?
know, I
Isn't
know.
she a wealth of information? We're gonna have to have her back because like so going back to the question, like how do you and how does your organization, like how do they inspire young people to get active?
Oh, good question. I mean, um, we do have some young people on our staff that are working on that, and they are much better than I am. They're much better at things like, the different social media things, the
Mhm.
short
Mhm.
videos, and
Mhm.
everything like that. Um, all that I can say is, if people don't like the way things are, and it is a struggle for
Mhm.
young people today,
Mhm.
then um, we have to do something.
Correct.
People need to organize and need to unite. So we are working on that. And I will just say, I feel very privileged in a sense that
Mhm.
in the past couple years, I have been surrounded, not just within the organization that I work for, but also in organizations that I volunteer with. I
Yes.
have been surrounded with a wonderful group of young people.
Mhm.
Right now,
Mhm.
like ones that are with the 5051 organization, ones that are with the Progressive Caucus,
Mhm.
ones that are, what are some of the other organizations? There's a organization against police crimes.
Oh
Um,
yes.
yeah, so there are quite a few different organizations that there's a what they call Progressive Hub, that kind of brings everybody together, which actually I'm missing their event because they have an event every Thursday, from 6 to 8.
Oh.
But
Well, thank you for
but
being
anyway,
here.
yeah. So
So
um,
go ahead.
uh, do
I want.
you, if you have other questions, I will go with them. But I was wondering if we could get
Yep.
into
Yep. You're
what
already
I
going where I
mentioned
want to get
about what
to.
I've learned.
Wait.
Okay.
Oh wait. Hold on.
What?
Oh, I thought we were gonna get
What?
into Mohammed Ibrahim. You're trying to go a different direction.
Um, we can do Mohammed Ibrahim, but I thought maybe we would end with that.
Okay.
But I wanted to remember we were talking before about what I've learned about from the three books that and
Yes.
from others previous to that about the
Yes.
different tactics that the unity busters use.
Yes.
So
Yes.
is that
Yes.
okay if I go into
Yes.
that?
Listen, you're the
So
guest. Go ahead.
okay. So so in my quest for social justice, and like most of the issues that I've worked around and most of the campaigns I've been on and everything have been purely volunteer. You know, I've been involved in the Student Coalition Against Racism when I was in at the University of Pennsylvania and Temple University. I've been involved in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa. Um, and many more. But in doing that, then I did get a paid position with a union to organize nurses. Okay, and I liked organizing nurses because the main thing when nurses organize, their main thing is not, oh, more money, more, whatever. It's, even though of course everybody, deserves to have what they need to live on materially, but the nurses were about the patient care and wanting to be able to do proper patient care and feeling like the bean counters that were running, the hospitals couldn't care less. And so they wanted to unite around that. Um, but in doing that, like, well, first of all, let me mention before I was into that, I mentioned that reading a lot and learning a lot about the CIA. The CIA in Latin America. Well, first I told you about Chile
Correct.
and what I found out about what the United States did there. And the next time I took the next semester a course in the CIA in Latin America and found out that the coup in Chile and the United States supporting that the was not an anomaly, but it was more the rule rather than the exception. And then I read books like The CIA and the Cult of Intelligence and COINTELPRO. I don't know if you know what that is, but counterintelligence
Yes. Coin
program.
push quote.
Important for
Yes.
COINTELPRO,
Yep.
right? And
Coin tell pro.
those documents were stolen actually from an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania in I think 1973.
I
And
heard
then
the
they
public
were,
report about that.
yeah, and then they were published. So I read those, and through reading those and the CIA and the cult and intelligence and declassified documents, a bunch of declassified documents,
Yes.
so I came to see how the similar types of things, the psyop that they use, which that's PSYOPS, which is psychological operations. Okay, so propaganda is like one form of psyop,
Mhm.
you know, psychological operations against people, but, there are other forms too, but they're experts at that, of course.
Mhm.
But anyway, so then when I became a union organizer, I read this book, Confessions of a Union Buster. Okay, and this is exactly what it says. A guy who did decades of working for a union busting law firm, and then kind of had a come to Jesus moment or whatever, and stopped drinking and decided that he was going to try to make amends for what he had done. So he's like kind of spilling the beans. So I have a couple passages in here that I want to read. So he
Yes.
says, now this is again according to the company and the union busters that they hire, the firm. The enemy was the collective spirit. I got hold of that spirit while it was still a seedling. I poisoned it, choked it, bludgeoned it if I had to. Anything to be sure it would never blossom into a united workforce, the dreaded foe of any corporate tyrant.
Ugh.
So to me, that kind of says it all. That's like a summary right there. What, he was a union buster. And the more I read about other things that go on the broader scale, this is one workplace at a time. He worked at different places, but one at a time. But we have the same thing going on nationally and internationally, and I call it unity busting. But it's the same principles. They use the same principles. And I see you looking like maybe our time is getting
No,
up,
no,
so maybe we
no, no,
just.
no. There's a question that came up. I'm so sorry. No, no. Keep talking. No, a question came
Okay.
up.
Okay. So let me read another thing from this book. This is page 195, where he talks about uh, while a bedraggled Christmas spirit still lingered in the frosty air, I dispatched a contingent of commandos to scratch up the cars of high-profile pro-company workers and to make threatening phone calls to others. So why, if he's working for the company, why is he dispatching people to scratch up cars and make threatening phone calls to pro-company workers? Okay? He says, I bade farewell to 1980 with a letter taking the union's task for such barbarous scare tactics. So here it is, the union busting firm is the one doing the threatening
Yes.
things and the property damage and whatever, and blaming the union for it. And again, I read enough history. I forgot to mention that, I ended up becoming a history major, switching from
That's
biomedical
fitting.
engineering to history to try to figure out like how and
Connect the
why and when did
dots.
all this start, and reading history, you see that, that is a very common tactic that what I call economic super elites have used for a long time, and they're still using it. And sadly, too many people fall into the trap and believe it. But yes, they are often the ones who purposely do things that are violent, threatening, and whatever, or pay other people to do it, and then they blame
Yes.
whatever, the union, the movement, the anti-war, people that are against fascism, whatever for it. Um, so then the other books I was going to mention. So I read this. I guess in the mid '90s or something like that.
Yes.
Um, and then soon afterwards, I read this book, which is called Toxic Sludge is Good for You. And it's about how the PR companies, public relations companies, kind of, many of them are kind of like surveillance types of organizations that um, companies hire, and sometimes governments, if they think that their bottom line could be hurt
Mm-hmm.
by a movement. Like one example in here was a animal rights group that was trying to let people know that a product that a medical product was being tested on animals, and then the animals were just being discarded, and they wanted people to know that and try to get the company head to do something different, to not,
Mm-hmm.
not just abuse animals like that. And but instead, what he did was hire a PR company guy to infiltrate the animal rights group, and and befriend someone that was like emotionally vulnerable. First of all, identify like who might be the emotionally vulnerable person. So, a woman who had a recent breakup of a long-term relationship, didn't really have any friends, was going through a lot of mess, so he befriended her, and then got her to place a bomb under the car of the CEO of the medical device company. And the only reason it came out in court documents was because the organization was able to get a good pro bono attorney. But how many times
Does
do
that
things like
happen?
that happen, and the
Almost.
organization
Slim to none.
can't afford a good attorney, and nobody's going to step up and do it pro bono or whatever? And then the last book, Confessions. So this is more on a national scale. The other one was like workplace at a time, one workplace. And
On
this
a local
this
scale.
one, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, is on the international
Global
level
scale.
of what like U.S. government and corporate agencies do, and even some of the NGOs that pretend to be all wonderful, nice things that are just helping people and for democracy and everything. They're actually the opposite in many cases. And so, and all of these three, I don't think the authors knew each other or talked to each other, but they all kind of outline the same tactics to
Common tactics.
disrupt movements and keep people from coming together. And like the one thing is, first they try to, I didn't read the part in the Confessions of a Union Buster where he talks about embrace the activists. So the first step thing is they try to embrace and like co-opt
Yes.
um, people, and try to butter them up and make them feel important, try to,
Oh
move them into
yeah.
things where they can't do anything. And then the second thing is they try to get the emotionally vulnerable to do crazy or violent things. And then the third thing is, with people that don't fall into any of those, either of those two categories, they call them the true believers that really believe in unity and justice.
Right.
Well, they try to smear them, and eliminate them in whatever ways that they can. So,
Oh my
so that's
goodness.
yes, that's important for people to know. And I know we're near the end now, and I haven't talked about Muhammad
Correct.
Ibrahim.
You knew I was going to get on to you about this because I'm even going to extend it just a little bit. We got to talk about Mohammed Ibrahim.
Okay.
But what I will
Okay.
say is thank you. Like, I don't want um, all the information, and especially those three specific books that you're pointing out, it seems like it needs to be on the top of everybody's must read if we're going to really, put a chink in the cog that's been working for so many centuries. Like to get it seems like all of these books have the common, if they have the common structure in mind, we're looking at different ways in which they try to infiltrate. And you talking about the individual that befriends the vulnerable, it's like, and you answered the question in terms of like how do they pick an individual that will that's willing to go the lengths and depths to destroy something that's supposed to be good. Like, how do they pick the individual? And you know, it's never the direct individual. It's the indirect person, because you know they need to frame someone. And that sounds very similar to what they did essentially with Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers, as far as the informant that they got. That was the thing. He was like, oh, put a bomb and let's go blow up this government building and really show them. And from what I know, from movie depiction, they were like, no, 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 that's not what we're about. We're not about violence. We yes, we want equity, but we're not about that. That's not. So, so I really, really, I know we're stressed for times, audience. Please bear with us, because the subject at hand is very important. We're still gonna get to it, but all of the information that you dropped is so amazing, and I'm very appreciative that you took the time to lay that out. Audience, I will have those books listed on the page. You'll also see it in the playback on the video. Terry, excuse me, was nice enough to show you which books that you should really do your homework on. If we're going to change the system, we have to understand the system, and these books are a beautiful, beautiful start. With that being said, to the young man at hand, what can you tell us about Mohammed Ibrahim?
So, Mohammed Ibrahim is an American citizen. He was born in Florida, in Brevard County, and lived there his whole life, and his family is there. And his family and extended family also still have land in the West Bank, in Palestine, okay? So he went there in February to visit during, I believe, I'm trying to remember, was it Ramadan then? Maybe not till March, but anyway, he went there to visit, and in the middle of the night, the like 25, 30 Israeli military broke into the house basically, and blindfolded him, tied his hands behind his back, and marched him off to prison. And he's been there. Well, they moved him to a different prison too, but military prison.
He's 16.
You know, and he turned 16 in prison.
He turned
He was
16.
Yes, he had a 16th birthday date in prison.
This poor baby.
Yeah, yeah. And the family has not had contact with him. They got in contact with their U.S. representative right away, and they were trying to work through him and his staff, and trying to, you know, be in contact with the U.S. embassy and everything. And they just kept kind of getting the runaround and telling them, oh, we need more time, we need more time. So finally, his cousin, this was in February, okay, so they were kind of quiet about it, thinking like they don't want to make waves because it might be worse. They may, you know, if they bring attention.
Understandable.
But then what happened was his 20-year-old cousin, who had just opened an ice cream shop in Tampa, who also is an American citizen, born here and everything, he was over visiting on the West Bank, and he was attacked by a gang of, I think they said 11 or 12 Israeli illegal settlers, and he was beaten. And then when people called an ambulance, then the Israeli military prevented the ambulance from coming for like hours, while he's there beaten, you know, waiting for it. And then the settlers came and like smashed the windows and attacked the driver of the ambulance and things like that. And so he ended up dying before he got on the ambulance, whereas possibly if the ambulance had been able to come straight through and take him to the hospital, who knows, maybe he would be alive. But that ensured that he ended up dying from the beating. Um, and so we're still trying to get a investigation of that, a thorough investigation.
Right.
Nobody's been charged or prosecuted for that. So on the one hand, we have uh, a 15 and then 16-year-old American citizen teen who was not charged with anything, although they tried to get him to confess to throwing stones at a vehicle, not even at a person, but at a vehicle. And so he's being held, in a military prison, whereas a gang that beat somebody to death is not being held or charged or anything at all. So, so we are trying to, and so at that point, the family, the extended family, they decided, this being quiet is not working and just trying to work through channels. So we have to try something. So that's why we are trying to get as much publicity as possible, get people to take this action here with this QR code, and which sends a letter or email to like 15 different officials, and just asking people to spread the word as much as possible. I have also heard that people that live near the Brevard County office of his U.S. representative are planning to start having vigils on a regular basis, and whatever people can think of to bring attention to this and say, get there to be a large outcry that this should not be, that the American government is just ignoring this, when we give billions a year to Israel constantly, every single year, and for decades, and yet this is what happens to American citizens. So our government needs to intervene, needs to make sure that Mohammed Ibrahim is freed and back home. He should be at home in school and enjoying sports or whatever. And also, we're also asking for a thorough investigation of the murder of his cousin,
Both of these,
Saifullah.
both
Pardon me?
my heart goes out to his family, first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart especially goes out to this young man who went to visit the country of his paternal family, and only to not return. And even if he did throw that rock at a vehicle, what is the crime doesn't fit the punishment.
Exactly.
The crime doesn't
Exactly.
fit the punishment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as you all see, the QR code is displayed. If you feel moved by Ibrahim's, am I saying his name right? Ibrahim's story? Mohammed Ibrahim?
Mohammed Ibrahim. Yeah.
Ibrahim, okay. Mohammed Ibrahim's story. Please donate. Please write your elected official. Please bring awareness to bring this young baby home. He is only 16. Only 16 years old. The trauma.
And he's a small 16 too. He was only about 100 pounds when he went in, and we have heard that he's down to about 70 pounds.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, through various sources. Like, as I said, the family has not had direct contact, but there has been, the U.S. embassy did have, I think twice, they had somebody visit him since February, and also a international attorney did get to visit him once too. And then of course there were some other prisoners that were released that knew a little bit about his situation. So that's the only way that the family is getting any information. They haven't been able to talk directly to him.
Okay, guys, please, please, please bring awareness, right? Terri, how can they get in contact with you, their organization, what handle? And I do have a question for you, but I really want to get this because we're going to repeat it again at the end. But repetition, repetition, repetition. Go ahead and grab your paper, grab your pencils. Please write it down. If you miss anything, I'm going to have it repeated again because this is something that's so important. How can people get activated with you?
I can give out my work cell phone. Is that okay? I mean,
Yeah.
fine with me. If
Yeah.
people do want to call, my number, my work cell phone is 813-705-5431. And if you want to look up more about the organization, it's careflorida.org, which is and Florida spelled out, so CAIR, Florida.org is the website. And then we do have all the social media, Instagram, and I think Instagram is a major one, but also some of the other ones too.
If you're on Instagram, then you're definitely on Facebook. So then let me let me ask these questions. This question. So one of the questions is what is your perception of the ceasefire the Trump administration is heralding on media outlets?
I don't, I mean, of course, I'm glad for any lessening of the firing, lessening of the bombing, etc., and any reprieve that gives to people. But a couple things. One, I think it could have been done a whole lot earlier. The terms that, I mean, there were things that Hamas had agreed to way back when, and actually the families of the Israeli hostages were trying to get Netanyahu to go for it, like within a couple days, in October of 2023. And, there's been a lot of violations already of the ceasefire. So, all I can say is I hope that it remains and gets better, but that's all I can say is that I hope and pray that it does, but I don't necessarily believe that, that it will.
I feel like you essentially said token gesture. That's what I feel like you said. It's a token gesture.
I don't know if I think you seem like you're frozen for me.
You're still moving. Can you hear me? Can you hear my voice? They've cut us off. Can you hear my voice?
I hear you now. You said they cut us off, right?
Yeah. I was like, maybe they cut us off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing Mohammed Ibrahim's story. We're praying that he gets back home safely. Remember, her organization is CAIR Florida, CAIRFLORIDA.org. Repeat your phone number one more time for the audience.
813-705-5431. And it is a cell phone. You can text or call, whichever you would like.
Okay, I'm dropping it in the chat right now. Oh, Falbo. I can't type when I'm looking. But okay, y'all. If the audience doesn't have any more questions, Do you want to close it up, Terry? I think you should close this up. I normally go through the, thank you for starting the hard conversation with us, um, con- um, choosing to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and always love peace and support Black businesses. But I want Terry to close out with another excerpt from one of your books. You can, if you have one, do one more for the audience, please, just so that they can get a taste of what they would be subscribing to by reading this book. Oh, look at this.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I was prepared for that.
Well, before you do that, you got
Yeah.
one more question that popped up. I'm gonna give you time. I had to drop in something. I had to. So the other question is: the U.S. criminalizes Hamas. How do you define Hamas? That's interesting because I've heard different perspectives of Hamas. Actually,
Yeah, I will say I am not an expert in that regard, so I honestly
don't have enough
don't.
information.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like, I mean, one thing I do know is that um, there, you know, when, like, I've seen some people justify um, bombing hospitals and things like that
Mhm.
because they say, or they'll talk about the health. Oh, you're using Hamas figures from the health ministry because the health, the health ministry is controlled by Hamas, and it's like, that's kind of like saying, like, just because, um, for instance, let's just say, okay, Trump is the head of the U.S. government right now,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and the VA hospitals are run by the U.S. government. Now, does that mean that all the doctors that work for the VA are like supporters of the policies of the person in charge? I
Mhm.
mean, no. It's like they're there because they're doctors and they want to take care of people, and so even if people think they have problems with Hamas fighters or Hamas this or that, like they shouldn't be using that to justify bombing doctors and patients,
Yeah.
and things like that. Um, there are a number of different organizations. I know a lot of times it's portrayed like, oh, Hamas like rules with the iron thumb, and there's like no other parties or organizations allowed. And if people think that, they should watch the film by Abby Martin about the 2018 and 2019 March. I forget what they called it, but it was about Gaza and how for 80 some weeks straight, people had totally peaceful marches in Gaza, and it was run by it goes through a bunch of different organizations that were in Gaza came together and they decided they wanted to do this, and it was and Hamas, it's not like Hamas said, no, you can't do that, or, or anything like
Mhm.
that. So there are other organizations. And to me, as a United States citizen, I see my responsibility more as trying to get my government and my government's allies and tax money and whatever to do the right thing,
Mhm.
rather than pick who another group, people in another country are going to be. If I was Palestinian, then I would need to study all the different organizations and try to decide which one I like the best and try
Right.
to make it be what I thought it should be. But right now, I just don't see that as, the main thing that we should be doing here as United States citizens.
You feel like it's a distraction. It's a way to.
Yeah.
It's a.
And, and it was kind of the same thing like with Vietnam when we were opposing the Vietnam War. Like, it wasn't about, well, does that mean that we love the Viet Cong leadership or something? No.
Right. Right. It
That,
was just about doing the right
we
thing.
don't have to take a position on that. It's like what our country's doing is wrong, no matter what, and let the Vietnamese people decide. what's going to happen with their, leadership and what party they want or whatever. And I pretty much feel the same thing with every country. Same thing, even in South Africa when the struggles were going on there. There were some people that wanted to, pick. There's always in any struggle. There's different
Yes.
factions and different parties and organizations and whatever. And yeah, when you read and you study and whatever, you might sympathize with one more than the other or think one is more correct. But that's not for us to impose on them. Like, our main duty is to make sure our government is not doing the wrong thing and keeping them from being able to choose who they want.
Y'all hear that? She essentially said, don't throw stones in a glass house. We need to get our house in order before we even start looking outside the house and throwing stones. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Now, I know I didn't give you time to look at a give you time to look at another.
So I'm sorry about that.
No, that is okay. Thank you so much.
Down.
We're over time. Audience, thank you so much for hanging in with us. This has been a pleasure. Terri, like, honestly, everything that you told me, I know we came here from Mohammed Ibrahim, and I'm so glad that we got to talk about his story and really center it on him for a moment. But everything that you said was important and necessary tonight. Every single thing, because it leads to the bigger picture, and it also leads to preventing any other stories like Mohammed Ibrahim. Just educating ourselves and getting organized, but getting organized in a way that's impactful. Please, if you're not with an organization, look into an organization that follows the thing that you are advocating for. Right now, we are literally fighting for our freedom. Social media is going to be used as a tool for ICE in order to essentially weed out the people that are protesting and essentially saying that maybe our government isn't doing the right thing, like maybe they should be doing things a different way. Anyone who questions that, anyone who has a doubt, is at a risk right now of being deported and no longer being considered a U.S. citizen. That's any of us that has sat down and watched this episode and really care about our government, really care about the people that live in the United States. And as much as I would have loved to get into policies and things that impact everything, we're just going to have to invite her back over because, we know we're over time. But I'm hoping that we can do some one-off discussions. Maybe I come and find you and we do a quick live on TikTok, because our shows on TikToks are every second Saturday and every last Tuesday of the month. Join us in those community discussions. I will make sure to invite Terri so we can have more of a back and forth dialogue. But it was very important that you know who she is, what she believes in, what she advocates for, and how she continues to fight for us, for people. Thank you, Terri.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, BLACtrospective beauties and BLACtrospective brothers. I will see you next time. See ya.